Hi, my name is Stephanie, and today I want to share my thoughts on the book Shouting at Leaves by Jennifer Msumba. So, if you don't know who Jennifer is, she is an autistic YouTuber, filmmaker, songwriter, and author. Many of you likely know her as an outspoken survivor of the Judge Rotenberg Center. And something I'd like to note before we begin is that I do consider Jen to be a friend of mine, so there may be some bias in my review. I really think that Shouting at Leaves is a must read for anyone who is interested in the lived experience of someone who is probably considered about autism level 2-ish, who has been considered to be someone who has behaviors. Of course, this is also an important personal insight into what it was like to live at the Judge Rotenberg Center during the time in which she did. But even beyond JRC, I really think it helps to understand someone who has had to live in institutions in general. So this book also looks at some of Jennifer's childhood, and some of those chapters end up kind of weaved in throughout the timeline of the book. I think that really kind of helps us see what Jennifer is kind of mentally referencing or thinking about, or things that kind of impacted her in the moments, even if it's just during reflection. This also is a way in which she shows us more aspects of her identity. Throughout the book, Jen gives us a unique perspective in the way that her behaviors would escalate and things would just get worse because of a lack of understanding and support, and just things that a lot of times they just didn't have the resources or information for at the time. What I think is so important about Jennifer's story is how much her parents and her family loved her and how much she loved them. I think a lot of people think that parents must hate their children to send them to JRC, to put them on the shock device. Sometimes people just have a really negative view of parents of autistic children, or people who let their child go to an institution or whatnot. And there's just this idea that that must mean that the parents and the family didn't love them, or didn't want them, or whatever, they didn't try hard enough. And I really think that listening or reading Jen's story helps you to understand that that's just really not the case. It can be so easy to judge people and their actions when we have access to all of this information now that they didn't have at the time. And now we get to see Jennifer, who has access to more understanding about her own life and condition in retrospect, and we can kind of see how things were for her, her perspective, even though at the time she might not have been able to articulate or understand the things that she does now. So I think it's really important to kind of keep those things in mind. Jen also goes into the concept of institutionalization, though mostly through experience. I personally would have liked maybe some more information on what institutionalization is. However, I don't know that that would have fit well into the book, considering it's basically kind of, I don't know if memoir's the right word or not, but it's more autobiographical rather than like, here's a bunch of research on what this is. So I guess that's just a me thing, honestly. Another thing that her book really helped me with was understanding the perspective of someone with OCD and intricate compulsions and rituals. A lot of the problems that she had were related to OCD as she was younger, and it was just spiraling out of control. And we really get a picture of what that looks like from her perspective. And it really helped me understand something. A friend of mine who also has OCD had explained that sometimes when a bad thing could possibly happen, they'll want it to happen, like they'll make it happen so that the anxiety of it possibly happening can finally leave them alone. And I couldn't quite understand why you would make something that could possibly happen when there was also a good possibility that you would avoid it. Because for me, I would just avoid the thing. If it's inevitable, sure, I want to get it out of the way. But if it's something that I could avoid, I would just avoid it like crazy. She had actually mentioned this in an interview with a news station that she did regarding a particularly heinous type of thing that they do at JRC, and I didn't quite understand it. And I think it's because I feel like maybe I still have some power to make something not happen when there's the potential that it won't. And I'm thinking that perhaps with OCD, it's almost like you're powerless to make it not happen. So there's just this belief that if you don't engage in the ritual, that something terrible is going to happen, and perhaps it's kind of linked with why that is, to the point where the anxiety is so bad about what could possibly happen that making the bad thing happen is better. Like, there's almost at least some type of control there than in the case of it may or may not happen. It just could happen. But those are just some thoughts that I had when I was reading that. It made more sense to me, the OCD kind of perspective on that, than it did before. So I thought that was really interesting. Now, again, many of you likely know Jen from the hashtag Stop the Shock campaign against JRC and that whole situation. This book really gives a good insight into how JRC can become a last resort, a last hope, a seemingly good thing compared to other institutions for families, and even the person who might be going there initially. She talks about how it was pretty much advertised to them as this amazing, wonderful thing, and they said a lot of nice things that they never actually carried out to both Jen and her mom. She shares about how they pretty much had her like tied down like a prisoner in the beginning so that it would seem like the shock device would give her so much more freedom, like all these people around her were able to do what they wanted, and they basically manipulated it to where Jen was the one who was requesting the shock device in the first place. It's really disturbing, but good to understand and see how they managed to use information and manipulation and contact control in making it all seem like the family and the client are the ones with this idea, that it's them who wants to do it, that's them consenting, they want this, and how they managed to keep that cycle going and to keep the client from expressing any sort of change of mind to the parent, and really just keeping things the way that they want them. And it's really heartbreaking to read about how things went down, basically. And again, I really hope that after reading this, people will have more of a compassionate view of families who put their child at JRC, who might even be doing that now, and understanding why this can become such a thing that they would even fight to keep. After all, it genuinely seemed like this is what their child wanted. It seems like things are getting better. Now, included in this book are some really horrible and heartbreaking things that happen. And while it doesn't go into like graphic detail or anything, I wouldn't say all of it is safe for children. So definitely read through it first if you are a parent, and maybe mark the pages that you might want to have skipped over for young children, just because of how sensitive some things are. And it also really highlights just how much people who are in institutions get treated as less than human, how people who have disabilities are treated as less than human, where people can do horrible, awful things and get away with it because who's going to fight for them? Who's going to stop that horrible person? And who's going to fight for the victims because there's no proof, or it's just fine, or all the people there would rather not deal with it. And it's really horrible to see, to read about, to know that this does happen. And I really do feel like Jen has gone through hell on earth and come out the other side to tell her story, and it's just such an important one to read, in my opinion. Among the horrible things that she experienced, she also mentions her faith. And there was a moment that she talked about that really, knowing that God was with her, helped her make it through. And I literally teared up because I know that in my life, my faith has been important to making it through really dark times. And for her, the kind of things that she had to go through, to know that God was still there, that was really touching to me, meant a lot to me. In that, I'd also like to mention that if you're not religious, I don't feel like this is a book that is overtly religious and, like, makes you feel like you should believe what Jen believes or whatever. So I don't think that's really an issue, but I just wanted to mention that as well. Another great aspect of the book is that Jen gives her advice to parents and families of people like her who might be going into institutions or might be into situations where they have different types of custody agreements or power of attorney, those types of things, where institutionalization or different types of placements are going to be a part of their life. I think it's so valuable to hear from Jen, someone who has lived through this, who has seen the nightmares that can happen in these situations. To hear her advice is just really, really valuable. And to that, I really hope that even families of people who have other complex disorders like OCD or other conditions, psychiatric, whatever else, would also read this and see what her perspective is and her advice is, because I really think that it can apply to a lot more than just the autistic population. While some of the chapters can feel a bit disjointed from each other, I really feel that overall this book was just really compelling. I finished it in one day. It's not a super long read, it's not like super complex, so it's really accessible to a wide range of audiences. So I would recommend this book to anyone who is interested about, of course, Jen herself, JRC, OCD, autism, and institutions in general. Hopefully through the process, you will fall in love with Jen and her personality and see her as more than just a survivor from JRC, but a wonderful and beautiful person. If you're interested in purchasing Jen's book, I do have it linked in the description below. There's, of course, the physical hard copy as well as an ebook. If you've read her book, I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are on it. What do you think? Did you agree with my review? Whatever else. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Did this help you understand a bit more what the book would be about? Do you want to read it? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you're interested in hearing autism-related things from me. Also, let me know if you want me to continue doing autism-related book reviews, because I have a few I'd like to do, but I don't know if y'all are interested in it or not.
Thank you to everyone who supports me here on YouTube as YouTube channel members, through Ko-fi, and as patrons on Patreon. And a special thank you to my Spinny Stimmy tier patrons, Philip Noah, Jack Varney, and Snowbird.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!